The gacha genre is changing rapidly. It's already started. You might not even have noticed. A few hours ago, I made a tweet showing the last 5 years worth of the worldwide search history on Google for Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Arknights, Endfield, Neverness, Everness, Honkai, Star Rail, and Tower of Fantasy. It's honestly quite fascinating. As I noted in my tweet, in the last 5 years, Tower Fantasy was almost as searched for during its launch window as Genshin Impact was, with Wuthering Waves coming in a little under Tower Fantasy. These were the top 3 most searched for gacha games during their respective launch windows. Going back to Genshin Impact's launch, both Tower Fantasy and Wuthering Waves still come in far ahead of the competition, but both fall slightly above and below the 40-point market of Genshin. I opted not to include ZZZ here because I didn't want to spam too many games from the same studio. Before we go any further though, any numbers that I list here are not here to trash talk different games. They're merely here to observe the not only insane hype that Genshin Impact had at its release and how to date no gacha game has since captured that same level of hype, but also to see how other gacha games have continued to grow over time to rival, or at least come close to rivaling Genshin Impact during its current state. Also, in the images you're seeing on screen right now, these additional search terms disregard characters, images, guides, updates, anything that aren't directly related to the title and its main term. It also disregards China since they don't use Google. At this juncture, you might be wondering why I'm doing this and how it's going to affect the genre. Well, if you take a look, you'll see that at its launch, Genshin Impact was an absolute monstrosity. Even right now, it more than doubles the launch of any other recently released gacha game. That's partially because of the COVID boom. A lot of people were online. A lot of people had no real alternatives to play. They had nowhere to go. They couldn't really go anywhere. And Genshin Impact is still to date a good game. But as you can clearly see, Genshin Impact has continued to decline at a set rate, with a small increase towards the end of 25, beginning of 2026. But we're not here to talk necessarily about the decline of Genshin Impact. What we're here to talk about is instead how the trajectory of the gacha genre has changed and why it's changed, in what form it has changed. Neverness to Everness is a gacha game that just launched several days ago globally, and its global day one earnings were crazy. $14.5 million US, with a confirmation that not only were 65% of its Chinese player base playing the game on PC, leaving only 35% of its players playing on mobile, but over 75% of its global players were playing on PC and console, meaning only 25% of its players were playing on mobile. The reason this is important is because online trackers track mobile revenue, mobile spending. But the gacha genre is releasing gacha games that are more played on non-mobile devices. 5 years ago, mobile was the predominant gacha platform. 5 years later, today, as of 2026, it isn't. More gacha games are releasing cross-platform compatible between PC and mobile, and the higher budget games, Silver Palace, Azure Premilia, Arknights, Endfield, Neverness to Everness, and Anta, all these games are actually releasing onto console as well, not only expanding the total reach of the game, but also creating an even larger split in terms of revenue and distribution. With NTE specifically, the US and Japan were the largest contributors in total revenue. These numbers are actually confirmed by Perfect World themselves. This was, I believe, part of a report that Perfect World submitted. Back on February 27th, I made another tweet going over Arknights Endfield. Hypergriff, the team behind Arknights Endfield, recently confirmed not only the total revenue of Arknights Endfield since its release back in January, but also provided a full breakdown of platforms, PC, mobile, and console, showing just how large a shift has happened in the gacha genre recently. According to the statement that Hypergriff released themselves, within 2 weeks of its launch, Arknights Endfield had made 1.2 billion RMB, or approximately $173 million US across PC, mobile, and console. In China, PC and console accounted for 60% of its total revenue, which meant that mobile accounted for 40%. Globally, PC and console accounted for 70% of total revenue, with mobile accounting for only 30%. In both instances, mobile made up less than half the total spending and, very likely by extension, less than half the total players. Yo, I don't mean to interrupt the video, but I need to take a moment here to thank all my incredible patrons over on Patreon whose support continues to allow for me to do regular videos like this every single day on this channel. Thank y'all so much, including our YouTube channel members. You guys mean the world to me. So do you guys as viewers as well. Now, without further ado, let's continue. I then went on to debunk the Gacha revenue website by showing the significant difference reported from Hypergriff to what was reported on the Gacha revenue website, which is why, of course, you never trust a Gacha revenue website or Sensor Tower. They're both completely speculative and very highly inaccurate. Back in January 2026, I made a tweet going over Wuthering Waves and the report made by Tencent confirming that they had made over $572 million over the 2025 period, Wuthering Waves officially becoming an evergreen title. Tencent also confirmed that most players played on PC, that there were several million active players every single day, and once again, there was a significant disconnect between the Gacha revenue website and then the revenue and players that Tencent themselves were reporting on. What this means, what we can gather from all of this, is that, interestingly enough, Gacha gaming is no longer necessarily about mobile. That mobile is no longer the predominant platform. On the contrary, every year, more Gacha games release onto PC and console, and they do even better than mobile. More people have access to PS5s, more people have access to PCs now. Sure, a lot of people also have access to phones, but these days Gacha games are just higher quality. They have better graphics, they have better textures, they have better combat, where using your thumbs on a tiny little phone just kind of sucks. That's the truth. The genre has progressed so much in the last few years. Ever since pretty much Wuthering Waves released, we've had Silver Palace, NTE, Ananta, Zenless Zone Zero, Rewinding Cadence. There are just an exorbitant number of Gacha games that are all massively open with fantastic looking combat, beautiful characters and graphics that are going to take the genre even further. Like Wuthering Waves might be, and Arknights Endfield might be, and Neverness to Everness might all be doing incredibly right now. But in the next few years, Gacha is going to go even further beyond, and they're going to take advantage of the groundwork that these games laid. And I guarantee you, I think it's great that Genshin Impact and Hoyo versus games run great on mobile, because trust me, they're gonna need that. All the other games are gonna be doing incredibly well on PC and console, and mobile's gonna have very few games that actually either work well or, you know, look even remotely close to what the PC and console experience is. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's very fascinating that so many Gacha games are doing so much better not on mobile than they are on mobile, even though mobile was pretty much what inspired the entire genre. And I'm also very curious to see where and how the genre continues into the future from here. I know you think that you just hit the end of the video, and technically, yeah, you have. And I know your first reaction is to close out of it at this juncture, but don't. No, instead, I urge you to take a moment here and click one of the videos on screen that are coming up in just a moment, so you remain up to date with everything going on in the Gacha genre. Trust me, you're not going to regret doing so. Stay flaccid.